the first project that we started with was Project Yellamma. Yellamma is a very famous goddess in the North Karnataka region. If you really wanted to know Yellamma, you would have to watch a Yellamma Nata. But this Yellamma Nata also tells you different stories in every region. So that story somehow has been tailor-made to fit each community that has been played. The women roles are played by Jogammas, Jogatis, transgender women, and it's an all-nighter. But it happens in the village in a place where there is, it's either in a temple or in someone's backyard. So I'm going to try and tell you Yellamma Nata, the story that Yellamma Nata basically is. So, once upon a time, long time ago, in a faraway land, not so faraway land, there lived a king, Renuka Raja, and his queen, Bhogavati Devi.
The whole Yellamma Nata, we approached it as a folk form, basically, looking at it as a folk form, and it was something that we chose out of Shilpa being associated with the folk form in her previous work. Gender Bender happened to happen, and they basically got in touch with us and asked us if we had anything that we could, showcase for their festival. And then we thought about it, and we thought this is a very relevant forum to be able to show something such as Yellamma Nata. There are a lot of aspects of it that deal directly with gender. For a fact that a transgender person plays the female lead character. In the meantime, we thought, okay, why not exhibit it, show people what we've collected so far. And we saw the good response that we got from the performance. But at the same time, we also saw that people didn't get a lot of what was being spoken about because it was in language from North Karnataka, which is very different from the Kannada and Bangalore. So we, as an experiment, we just said, okay, let's try and just tell the story, maybe sing the songs that we've collected as well, and try and do it in English in a way that we include as many people as possible, just to get the story across.
These last Nadadeva Gida Mariyas, you're going to make it soft so it can kind of overlap over the narration. It's going to be about she's going to her husband's house and they walk forever, and that Kadu's husband doesn't say anything to her and they're walking in silence, and then she steps into the house and he calls out to her till he says, Renuka!
After Gender Bender, we decided we'll start a company, because the researchers we met for these 3 forms basically told us there are more than 200 forms in Karnataka. So we sat down, Adi and I made a list. These are the number of forms we knew, and we knew about 34. So even to find out what the rest are was going to take us years of work.
And really the intention at that point wasn't something, it wasn't big on gender or big on any of these themes that we are now talking about. It was just to look at folk forms, and folk forms from regions which are not around here and which are not popular, and that's all it was. But yeah, as we started breaking it down, as we started doing the performance, as we looked more into the story, we started observing how the problems that women face even today in terms of a domestic problem or that of being a mother or being a wife or being a sister. You know, all of these, the nuances, the intricacies that add up to maintaining these relationships or maintaining these roles are relevant even today, and they talk about this in these stories which are supposed to be over 2000 years old, orally passed down. So we thought this is a good way to kind of bring out these issues as well as showcase folk forms that people are not really aware of.
We realized folk is not really like tradition at all, because folk is meant to stay contemporary. Folk is meant to be judgified and pulled apart, and someone is meant to ask, but why? But how? And that space is there in folk that's not there in tradition. So then we've kind of stepped back and tried to figure out personally as an artist, for me, that transference has become very important. The fact that I sing my grandmom's song again and again, now there are 20 people who sing my grandmom's song, and it's almost like it's their grandmom's song now. The fact that there is no copyright, there is no idea of who owns this song, if this song is perfect, there is no perfection to the song, there's no idea of this is the perfect way to sing it.
We realized, okay, we're doing all this research, we've got all this material, we've got all these stories, songs, you know, all of this stuff, and we are, of course, our intention is to put it into an archive and make it accessible to everyone. But
if we're going to build an archive, is an archive really worth anything if it does not benefit the community it's been made from? Like, if it doesn't help them, what life does it have, and why should it exist?
Renuka, I will give you a vara. I will give you a child. Better still, I will upgrade that, I will give you a son. Now, there is one small problem, Ashton. What is the problem, Shiva? This son will be born to you. He will grow up in your love, care and guidance, and one day he will kill you.
How do you appropriate music that is not your own? That's a question that I'm struggling with even now, and I think as a team we're struggling with it.
But what we thought folk was able to do in our case was that we gathered at Carbon Park every morning, and we saw people who, from different walks of life, who've never been musicians, who've never got on stage, who've never spoke Kannada in some instances, come and learn some of these songs and then perform with us today, you know.
Who do you credit? Like when you take from Manjamai, I can credit her, but she didn't write the song. She didn't put the tune to it. Maybe she changed it a little, but are you crediting the change of tune, or are you crediting the community? And if you're crediting the community, is it an easy way out because you don't really have to pay the community?
Can we imagine a day where there is no divide between the folk and the urban, in the sense that what is folk in rural Karnataka, is there a way of making it so easily accessible, so easily understandable that it's not exoticized? It's normal. It's a lifestyle. You know, just is there a way to be able to break that down to people? Is there a way to bridge that gap?
He makes her stand in front of her ex-husband, takes his axe and he beheads her. Her head topples, rolls to the ground, and she starts growing another head. He takes his axe and he beheads her again. And another head grows. He beheads her again. And again. And again and again and again and again and again. Hundreds of heads to the left, hundreds of heads to the right. Mother is not dying.
How is it enhancing the artists is also another question that I'm still struggling about. Yes, we can give them 500 rupees or 5,000 rupees for an hour, but what does that mean? Like, are you commodifying what they haven't done in 20 years? You are doing that because they get paid 10 rupees for a song. So when you're looking at giving them 5,000 rupees for a song, what is that doing to that demographic? Like, will they stop singing for 10 rupees?
So that's what we're trying to see. I mean, is there a way that can happen? We can quicken that process. Is there a way of making it more accessible on both sides, not just folk people coming here? It's also, we want synergies on both sides. We want to be able to kind of uplift all art. So that's the idea.
Now, she says this, and she says, I am a Kshatriya. I have tried to find my identity associated to these men in my life for so long. I'm going to find one on my own. She goes to Saudatti, where there is a massacred king, and his widows who are weeping over his death. She says, there is a kingless kingdom, I'm going to go and set things right in that kingless kingdom.
But yeah, I mean, I think what we are trying to do is identify these issues and make it known, make it public, and speak to people about this is what happened, and you know, this is not the right thing to do, or you know, just talk about it in a way that makes them just question it, whether it's right or wrong, or forget right or wrong, or whether it should be done or not be done, you know, and that's about it. It wasn't really trying to, it's not about trying to provide a solution, but just provoke thought.